So hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar. We are very excited to present to you the QED Knowledge Vault for AI-powered root cause analysis. So we are smartQED.ai. You can find us on the web, on LinkedIn. And of course, Ron and myself, I'm Julie Basu, the founder and CEO of smartQED. And also with me today on the webinar is my co-founder, Terry Gallagher. Hi, Terry. Terry, are you there? And also, Ron Spencer from our marketing team, as well as Sangeet Pal, who's our AI ML expert. So I'm assuming Terry is here.
Yep, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So moving on. So today's agenda is what is smartQED? What is the QED Knowledge Vault, this mysterious beast we are talking about? How do you load the knowledge? How do you use the knowledge? And what are the benefits? So the next steps would be, just to give you a quick view of what you can do, is to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Ron is going to post some links of our company page on the chat, and then of course you can open your free account and try us out for a test drive on app.smartqed.ai. Yeah. So what is smartQED? Just very briefly, this webinar is not about the smartQED features and benefits, but for those who are already familiar with it, it's a one-line recap. It's a visual intelligent workspace with what we call investigation maps that let you do faster problem analysis. And problem analysis includes incidents, problems, root cause analysis, any kind of investigation that you need to conduct. So for example, here is a snapshot from our UI. Let's say your website crashed, and then you could have culprits like, the application problem or a network problem or a web problem or a managed database problem, various possible suspects. And now you have to typically eliminate them one by one and then find the root cause, or find at least the contributing cause. So maybe the root cause analysis comes later. Different people follow different processes, but typically the process is one of elimination. There is a murder, and then there are suspects, and based on the evidence that you have gathered, you can solve the problem. So here you see these little icons that are all clickable and that provide the details about the problem. What did you see? What did you do? Etc. So that in 30 seconds is our smartQED summary. Now, what is the QED Knowledge Vault? So for smartQED, we say that it's very good at collaborative incident analysis. However, there is a larger hidden benefit, which is you are building up knowledge as you are solving problems. That is the QED Knowledge Vault. That is what our ultimate goal is. It is a repository of structured problem-solving knowledge. And it has a structure like we saw in the previous slide, and I'll go into that in more detail. So what are the kinds of things that reside in the Knowledge Vault? Number one is the problems that we have resolved. Yeah, so they are part of our knowledge. That's how the human brain learns, and that's how we are also populating our Knowledge Vault. And then the templates. Let's say, I have a problem, my website crashed. I know kind of where to look, right? So there are predefined investigation plans that you can define ahead of time before you see it actually in the middle of an incident, in the thick of action. Before you even get into the crunch, you can have your subject matter experts define the templates to help jumpstart investigations when they do happen. So it's not just a knowledge repository. There's a very critical last line here. It has intelligence to interpret this data that is residing in the problems and templates and give recommendations. Yeah. So it's a repository. You can also think of it as a case base. Yeah, it has a structure to it. The repository understands problem cases, kind of like a doctor's head. It understands, the doctor understands medical cases. In this case, it understands smartQED cases, plus the intelligence, which is essentially, some AI ML logic And Sangeet, our attendee, is the expert on that. And he has actually given demos in which we will illustrate all this. So these are the two critical structures of the knowledge vault. What is it? What is in there? And what do we do with it? So moving on. So what is the anatomy of a problem? We said the knowledge vault has problems. If you look deeper, each case has a single problem or a template, which is nothing but, the structure of the problem without data in it. But these are the various aspects that go with it. So the first thing that people ask when a problem happens is, what happened, right? Did I have some kind of a pain? Where was the pain? Was it in my head or was it in my foot? So for the computer system or any kind of system, you can take transportation or manufacturing, chip manufacturing, semiconductors. You can have the same question asked in every domain. First is what happened? Next question is where did it happen and when did it happen, right? So this is very important. Have I been having the pain for 1 month or is it just 1 hour? So the treatments and the diagnosis could be very different depending on these aspects. Now, these are typically the starting points for the problem investigation. Yes. After that, when you move on, you start asking more questions. How did this happen? Did okay, A happened, then B happened, then maybe that caused C and D, and how did we get here, right? So this is the how question. And then the most critical question is why did it happen? Because that directly leads to the fix. So was it because of a hacker attack, or was it because my database crashed, or was it my application code got upgraded and there are some incompatibilities, etc. Right? So this is the root cause analysis question. Why did your problem happen? Now, there are other aspects for practical investigations. Who am I going to call? So remember, the purpose we said was to facilitate problem investigations, right? So who are we going to call, and what are they going to do to fix it? So that those are integral part of resolved problems. Once you have answered what happened, where and when, and they get an understanding of the how and why questions, then the next thing is, shall I call the DBA or shall I call the data admin, right? And what are they going to do to fix it? So all these aspects together, and you can have, adjunct aspects, like how long did it take to fix, etc. But these are the major aspects that kind of, gives the problem its structure. Now, moving on, this is what is residing in the knowledge vaults, and we have our own terms. We don't call it who, what, when, where, how, but they translate into specific terms in our system. And what and when we say are the clues. These are the notable symptoms that kind of define the problem signature. Where did it happen? So did it happen in the database or is it in the application? So let's say we have an out of memory. Where did it happen? Why did it happen? These are the causes. You can have a cause name like, ransomware attack or DDoS attack. The status of it, was it a contributing cause? Was it not a cause at all? So, and notes, etc. that go with it. These are the details. Then how, this is, we call it the clue board. This is how the events unfolded. A happened, then that caused B and C, and that's what led to the crash. And last but not the least, these are very important parts of the problem solution. Who fixed it and how? What actions did they take? Did they try to reboot the system? Did it work? Maybe not. So there could be some useless actions, useful actions, and you can indicate that in the structure itself. So this is our kind of the basis of the knowledge vault. So loading the knowledge vault, now that we understand, the problems are kind of, the why is the missing part, the root cause analysis. Why did we see this problem, right? So, but once we have solved it, hopefully we have answered these questions. And then when you mark it as QED, it automatically goes into the QED knowledge vault. So in other words, we can say that smartQED is building up your knowledge from these solved problems as you solve them. So when you solve it, we mark it QED, which means I found the root cause, and then it goes into the knowledge vault and basically serves to train the machine. The intelligence is working off the knowledge behind it. And so knowledge plus intelligence essentially leads to the expertise, right? It's expertise, and that expertise is coming from the knowledge that's going in. And the templates, right? So these are predefined cases. You can have your SMEs curate these in the same structure. I'm following the similar structure that we have for a problem. So with that, I think I will go into a demo, quick demo by Sangeet. Let me start it up. I think the sound may not be audible. Yes.
Yeah, it was a little low volume and
Okay.
Yeah,
difficult
you'll have to share sound.
Yeah, I did share sound.
Video, we will take a look at how.
Is it audible now?
Hello and welcome.
Great.
In this video, we will take a look at how the QED Knowledge Vault is loaded with solved problems. So what we see on the screen here is a fishbone-based investigation map where collaborators have gotten together and solved a problem of a website going down. This red path here indicates that a root cause has been identified and fixed to solve the problem. To load this problem into the QED Knowledge Vault, what we need to do here is click on the fish icon and lock the cause analysis, confirm here, and this will load the problem to the QED Knowledge Vault as a solved problem. We will soon get a confirmation here in the form of this QED stamp. Another way to load this problem to the Knowledge Vault is to save it as a template. How? Again, we click on the fish icon, save as QED template. We provide a name here, something like website crash troubleshooting maybe. Select whatever we want to, notes, attachments, etc. I will include all and provide a description if you wish to, and save. This will load the problem into the template library, and we will browse the template library now. So we'll go to browse QED templates and we go to the account tab because we saved it in the account, and there we see this. We can provide a description later if we want to. For the time being, let's take a look at the template, what it looks like. The picture's coming up. I will expand this a moment so that all of us can see this clearly. As you can see, there we go. This is the investigation map as a template. So these are the two ways in which we load a problem into the QED Knowledge Vault. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so that was a very quick demo, but I hope it gave you a flavor of how to push problems into the Knowledge Vault. And as you see, there are little annotations on each of these causes that provide the details. What did we see? Who actually was called? What was the deadline? So you can associate various details with the problem and each of its causes, and that as a whole is pushed into the Knowledge Vault when you mark it as QED. So let's see, what else can we do to load the Knowledge Vault? So one of the most common questions we have is, hey, I have already been solving problems for the last 8-10 years. I have already a repository of solved problems. Can you read that and load it up? So the answer is, the simple answer is depends. So yes, everybody has prior incidents. Most of the people here attending or will be listening to the recording are incident managers, and you have solved hundreds, if not thousands of prior incidents. Then you also refer to troubleshooting guides, knowledge articles. So this knowledge of solving your problems actually resides in many different silos. So prior incidents, definitely. What did you see when you saw last website crash? Troubleshooting guides. Maybe you wrote something for to teach your junior members. Knowledge articles are very common. Then wiki pages. People share even in email. Here, if you see this, do that. On Zoom calls, knowledge is spread out, fragmented. However, if you have documented it, then yes, it is possible to pre-process this text data using AI NLP, right? So AI NLP is getting very advanced these days. It can understand human language and really understand some context and try to get the structure of the problem. What was seen? What did they do? Right? So remember the critical aspects of a problem are what did you see, what did you do. These two are the most critical pieces. If they are there in the text data, then yes, we can try to pre-process and extract that. So it should contain enough information to be useful. One of the things that we say is C is like people say, I have a chat log. Can you read my chat log and create this structure? Well, it really depends on what is in your chat log. If it has these pieces of information which we can extract using AI and NLP, then yes, we can try to create the structure or even do other techniques like, topic modeling. What were you talking about? Were you talking about a website crash, or were you talking about, ransomware attack? So we could try to categorize and classify them using some intelligence, but everybody knows this has its limits. It's not God. It's not going to be able to infer things that are not obviously present. One of the pieces that's very important is, which component has been fixed, right? So Terry likes to say in some of the incidents, people will write fixed. And because I know that, let's say Terry wrote fixed, and because I know that Terry is the DBA, we know that he must have fixed something in the database. Now that is knowledge that's external to the chat. Can the AI NLP somehow infer it that Terry fixed the database? Yes, so it has to contain enough information. So currently we do provide this service, but we've done as a consulting service, as the data quality needs to be checked. Your loading the knowledge vault is very possible, and we have done that using even problems, for example, from Stack Overflow. Those are pretty defined problems. You see a problem, you have certain answers with the best answer, accepted answer, and yes, you can load up the QED Knowledge Vault from those kinds of data. So now we come to using the knowledge vault. So let's say we have built up this, all this knowledge of hundreds of problems and then templates. Now, how do we make use of it? So what we have to get back to is, what is the problem? You have to define the signature. So for example, say out of memory in the database, right? So we are not a keyword search. What the knowledge vault supports is recommendations through symptom-driven case search. So the knowledge vault consists of, the problem cases that have been resolved or templates that address potential cases. And now you can derive recommendations from your data and from your templates, but the searches are completely driven by symptoms. So you can do a keyword search, but it is not as accurate, because if I say out of memory in the database, that is very different than saying out of memory in the application or in the web layer. Very different. So if you specify the clue and the component where it happened, then the intelligence can actually, the engine runs and tells you the insights. What are those insights? So we basically can match, score, and rank your similar problems and templates based on the data that you have entered. What is the input? And then what it can additionally do is aggregate the data from the matching problems. So this part is very important. Today, if you do a keyword search, let's say I go to Stack Overflow and I do a keyword search, then I get a bunch of links. That's what I get from a keyword search. Now I have to click on each link and say, oh, is this my problem? Oh, is that my problem? Maybe I need to put the knowledge together, and all that aggregation happens in our own heads. So here, because of the structure of the vault, it can actually find the top matches. By the way, these are our proprietary algorithms, matching, scoring, and ranking. We rank them according to the similarity score. So a score is computed based on how close they are. So for example, if I have a headache versus I have a headache and a fever, maybe headache and a fever is a better match, or headache is a smaller match. So we actually score them, and then we take the top matches and we can aggregate the data. So this is statistical analysis on the matching problems. And the best thing is it can now help us solve problems rather than being a passive source. So today's knowledge bases, that's why we decided, by the way, not to call it a knowledge base, because knowledge base, people think of it as a passive system. I've put in, my incidents, or I have put in some troubleshooting guides. Now I got to search it to find the matches. Yes, the system doesn't help me find solutions. Here, the knowledge vault is a kind of active participant in the problem solving process, in the sense that if you give it an input, it can analyze the data and aggregate them, and then help us solve the problem, jumpstart the investigations. So we will shortly see a demo. All this will become clear. So now can the question be like, okay, let's say it suggested a very bad thing, right? Thumbs up, thumbs down, upvote, downvote. We are working on this. How does it affect our ranking? We are taking your feedback and putting it into the vault. So if I say thumbs down to a particular solution, then the next time it should not be, showing that to me as the first option. So with that, let's see a demo of how to use the QED Knowledge Vault.
Before we move on to the demo, Julie, we have a question from Shubhadeep.
Okay, sure.
What different features it gives us from ServiceNow? This is the question which has been put up by Shubhadeep.
Yeah, so it's a good question. We can come to it in more detail in the Q&A section. But ServiceNow is a ticket logging system. It does have some support for keyword searching. As far as we know, it does not have the structure that the QED Knowledge Vault has, and it does not have the recommendation engine at the level that the QED Knowledge Vault supports. Now, can you use smartQED with ServiceNow? Absolutely. You can use this as a complementary piece to ServiceNow. We can work with ServiceNow. However, the QED Knowledge Vault is within smartQED, and your problems in ServiceNow that have been resolved would have to go through some pre-processing, as I discussed, to load it into the Knowledge Vault and be available for recommendations. Okay, we can elaborate on that afterwards. So Ron, any other questions?
No.
Actually, I wanted to just quickly
Please, yes,
add to that. So yeah, our tool has a more visual framework, and as Julie pointed out, a particular structure that is more geared toward finding like notable events, ultimately being able to process that in an aggregate, and ultimately help you understand where your current problem root cause likely resides, and also provide some fixes that have worked in the past.
Right, but it all depends on the data that is in the ServiceNow tickets, right, Terry?
Yes.
If there are enough details, we should be able to make use of it, but we are a complementary solution. We do not replace ServiceNow. We are not a ticket tracking system, but we work in conjunction with these tools. Okay, so with that, I'll jump into the demo, how you can utilize this vaults for your problem solving.
Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to take a look at how the QED Knowledge Vault is used to speed up problem solving or problem resolution in smartQED. So here we're looking at an unsolved problem. Customers cannot access websites, which has 2 clues in it: out of memory in the database component and internal server error 500 in the web component. And now we want to use the QED Knowledge Vault to solve this problem quickly. The way to do that is to click on this fish icon, go for QED Insights, and now this algorithm is going to mine the QED Knowledge Vault, fish out all the similar problems. We see the results here. Fish out all the similar problems and do the further analysis. So it has already done the root cause analysis and is telling us that the most likely cause of why this happened is because something went wrong with the memory of the database. And it also tells us that the most recommended action for us is to upgrade the database. Suggested priority is P1. And it also tells us who are the people best suited to solve this problem. And we can click on each of these more buttons here, and it will actually tell us the details of what really happened. So 9 similar matching problems were found, out of which the largest cohort was one where there was a problem with the memory of the database, which is why this is being shown as the most likely cause. Likewise for all of these sections. Now, in addition, and even for matching problems, we can click here and we can compare exactly why this was fetched as a similar problem. In addition, another thing that we have here is a set of matching templates. So not just to solve problems, but the other part of the Knowledge Vault, which is a matching template, this also is available to us. Finally, there's one thing that I would like to show, and I can actually go back to the fishbone page of the unsolved problem, and we can again click on this fish icon here, and there's an option here called aggregated fishbone. If we click on it, what we get to see here, and I have to expand this a bit so that we can all see it clearly. This is a visual representation of the distribution of all possible things that could have gone wrong and contributed to this website falling down. So 44.4% of the time, this was because of a problem with the database, a memory issue to be specific. 33.3% of the time, it was because of a DNS issue with the network. The remainder of the time, it was a bug in the application. So it's a visual representation of all possible things that have gone wrong as far as the QED Vault's data is concerned. So this is how we use the QED Knowledge Vault to help solve problems faster. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so that was a very quick but very illustrative demo by Sangeet of all the ways you can look at the matching problems, you can look at the root cause analysis or cause analysis, the aggregated recommendations, and even look at it as a visual map, because ultimately smartQED is a visual workspace. It provides even the recommendations as a visual template.
So I wanted to just
please.
sort of add, I'm not sure it was clear to everybody. So the aggregated fishbone is similar to like a fault tree analysis, but the difference is it doesn't show every combination and permutation of what could have caused the problem. It shows what actually has historically caused these problems. So I think that's where it's more useful.
Yes, that's a very good point. So there is a subtle difference between the aggregated fishbone and the templates. So a template, if I were to lay it out, why can the website crash? There could be like, 20 different causes. But the aggregated template actually shows you the actual things that did happen in the past. Like Terry mentioned, it's based on your history. So yes, there could be 20 different causes. However, the data shows that you ran into maybe 3 causes in the last 1 year. So the aggregated fishbone is a little more condensed and more precise because it's driven by your data, whereas the template is driven by your perception of what could be the possible causes. They're predefined, right, Terry? So that's a really nice distinction between the aggregate fishbone. Aggregated fishbone is completely data driven, and template is more like a predefined plan.
Exactly, and it basically when you look at a fault tree, it's kind of overwhelming of all the different things that could happen, and this tells you what has happened, and oftentimes there's a good chance that your current problem is one of these issues or very similar to it.
Right. Okay, so let's summarize it. What are the benefits of the Knowledge Vault? So it replaces inefficient search and read, text-based learning. I hope it's clear to people by now that we do not really need to write knowledge articles on the side or troubleshooting guides to train up people, because the machine is learning and will help me find solutions, right? In this case, Terry has an interesting anecdote or analysis actually. Terry, do you want to tell them about your knowledge article experience writing knowledge articles?
Sure. And I think many of you can relate to this. When I was managing a DevOps team, we were establishing a new support organization. We were implementing ServiceNow, et cetera. So basically, I established a process to ensure that every time we had a problem, the proper analysis was done and knowledge articles were written, et cetera. And then after a year, we started analyzing how many of these knowledge articles were actually used, and found that approximately 90% of those knowledge articles were never even opened. So what that highlights is a lot of work goes into writing knowledge articles, but all said and done, you know, it's a lot of work that ultimately is never gotten any value from it. So our tool helps provide information regarding the root cause that may be more intuitive and more relevant for someone to understand what's in front of them at the moment and not have to slog through knowledge articles.
Right. Even the 10% that were read, Terry, may have been read at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Maybe at the time of the incident, or maybe a month before, and people had forgotten by the time, you know, so they would have to search and read it again and again, right? So every time you use that article, you would have to kind of search and read it to remember what was actually suggested.
Exactly. Oftentimes there's a knowledge article can be really long, so it's kind of difficult to fish out what's relevant for your current urgent problem. And oftentimes, even with the best of intentions, the article itself is not complete.
Yes, it has to evolve, you know, but that is another challenge. We've heard this from many customers. Let's say I write a beautiful knowledge article. In 6 months, it's kind of out of date because either the system has evolved or the problems have evolved. Or maybe we upgraded our systems and it's a completely different set of causes or somewhat different set of causes. It is a challenge, right, Terry, to keep the knowledge articles up to date with the current scenario.
Correct.
So the QED Knowledge Vault automatically takes care of that, at least for the problems, not for the templates. Now, yes, your templates could get outdated, but there are high-level plan. So the details, you know, could get outdated, but the higher level plan will probably still be valid. Whereas the problems are completely data-driven, the recommendations from the problems will depend on your history. And those will evolve as you go along, even though your system evolves. The aggregated fishbone and the aggregated knowledge will actually keep up with that evolution of your systems and problems. So just to summarize, we're kind of out of time now. So reuse knowledge, but we will do the Q&A after this. It lets you reuse knowledge efficiently. We move completely away from the separate step of how do we document our knowledge and essentially let the machine use the data that we created when we resolve the problems. Retain knowledge when SMEs leave. This is a very big concern these days. There's a lot of people churn. Let's say the admin, really gets good at it, but he or she decides to leave in a year and a half, 2 years. Oftentimes, the rate of moving around, even within companies, people don't want to work on the same project for more than 2 years, 2-3 years, and then they're gone and they carry the knowledge in their head. Whereas in this case, if you follow how to load it up, how to solve the problem in smartQED, then you retain that knowledge because what you did is actually documented in the knowledge vault. So the end result is, of course, it jumpstarts and accelerates our investigations, and over time you can build it up to be your virtual expert. Kind of becomes like your doctor, like a GP, and you go and say, hey, I have a headache, what do you recommend? And the doctor is never going to say take Imodium because he or she knows the associations, right? So this set of symptoms correspond to this set of drugs. The doctor is essentially a pattern matcher in this case. So is the intelligence on the knowledge vault is also a pattern matcher. It matches symptoms and says, oh, you saw website down and you did reconfigure the database, or you added more memory, whatever it is, the associations are known, and this becomes a virtual expert, always on call, keeps learning, it always keeps improving and never leaves the team. This is very important because today, if somebody leaves, they carry a lot of their knowledge with them. You can make them write articles, but again, like Terry said, who is going to read those articles and when, and are they going to be able to apply it at the right time? So with that, I think we are at the end of the presentation. You can open a free account. Ron is going to post the links, app.smartqed.ai. We would be very grateful if you provide us some reviews. So we are listed on Capterra, and we actually already got a 5-star review. Thank you. to that person. He actually opened a trial account and gave us a great review. So Ron is going to post also the links for LinkedIn and Twitter. You can follow us. Our company page has over 1,300 followers. And last but not the least, you can contact us for a demo if you're curious about more in-depth discussion of how we can work with ServiceNow. What can you do with your prior problems? What will it, take to get started? We can certainly have a discussion on the integration as well as the scheme of how it all fits together in a complete picture. Terry, please feel free to add your perspective on the ServiceNow further, or any other thoughts?
ServiceNow is a fantastic tool. I mean, it's obviously the 800-pound gorilla in ITSM space. It does a lot of things well, but it's all said and done very text-based. It's reliant upon people typing in lots of comments and so on and so forth. It doesn't do a good job, at least from the perspective of when you need data to understand the details of the incident or problem you're trying to resolve, who did what, when, what were the notable events. They may or may not be recorded. So having a tool that has a framework that is more visual and less text reliant kind of forces the user to ensure that all of the artifacts that are necessary to understand the true root cause of a problem and understand what actions were taken and ultimately which actions helped resolve the problem and which ones didn't. That's where our tool shines over and above ServiceNow. And it's more of a niche product. Like I said, ServiceNow is a fantastic tool, but it's huge and very text-based.
Very text-based. Yeah, I think that is the critical point. It doesn't have the structure for the investigation